The letter that changed everything. The morning sun slipped through the torn curtains of Ada's family house, painting faint golden lines across the mud walls. The house was humble, too humble for the dreams she carried in her chest. She sat on the wooden stool by the window, twisting her fingers anxiously. She had been waiting all week for the admission list to be released, praying silently that her name would appear among the thousands who applied. Her father, Papa Nadi, came in from the farm, sweat soaking through his worn shirt. His face lit up the moment he saw Ada holding an envelope, white, crisp, official-looking. "Papa Nadi," breathing heavily, "Ada, is that—" She didn't answer. Her hands were trembling as she tore the envelope open. Time felt painfully slow. The world seemed to hold its breath. Her mother, Mama Nadi, stepped closer, drying her wet hands on her old wrapper. Ada's eyes scanned the first line. Her breath caught in her throat. "Congratulations. You have been offered provisional admission." Her heart leaped, pounding loudly like a drum against her chest. "Ada," whispers, voice trembling. "I got in. I got admission." Her parents screamed, not out of volume, but out of pure joy. Mama Nadi dropped to her knees, hands lifted to heaven. "Mama Nadi, God, thank you. I knew my daughter would make it." Papa Nadi pulled Ada into a tight embrace, his rough hands shaking slightly. He was proud, prouder than she had ever seen him. But behind his pride was something else, fear. Their happiness slowly softened into silence. The room felt heavy, as if they all realized the same painful truth at once. "Papa Nadi, gently, my daughter, we are happy for you, truly. But you know we do not have the money, not even for the first semester." Those words dug into Ada's chest like a blade. She knew it already. She had known even before she opened the envelope. They were poor, painfully poor. Sometimes they struggled to buy simple things like kerosene or soap. University fees? That was a mountain far beyond their reach. She looked at the letter again, her vision blurring with unshed tears. This was the dream she had spent nights praying for, the dream that suddenly felt fragile, almost impossible. But then she straightened her back, determination burning in her eyes. "Ada, Papa. Mama. I will find a way. I don't know how yet, but I will go to that university. Even if I have to work day and night, I will go." Her parents exchanged a worried look. They admired her courage, but they feared for her too. They knew how unforgiving the world could be to a young girl alone. Mama Nadi cupped Ada's face in her hands. "Mama Nadi, just promise us one thing. Whatever you do, do not lose yourself." The bus jolted violently as it approached the university gates, waking Ada from the light sleep she had slipped into during the long journey. She rubbed her eyes and looked out of the dusty window. Her heart skipped a beat. There it was. The massive signboard with bold letters announced the name of the university she had dreamt about for years. Students were everywhere, laughing, dragging suitcases, hugging friends, taking pictures, and calling on phones. The environment buzzed with excitement and new beginnings, her slippers sinking slightly into the sandy ground. She stared at the tall buildings, the clean pavements, the shiny cars pulling in and out. "Ada, VO, softly to herself. So this is the place my life is supposed to change." A group of girls passed by, pulling suitcases and giggling loudly. One of them, wearing expensive braids and an iPhone dangling from her hand, looked Ada up and down briefly, her faded jeans, her cheap bag, and then looked away with a dismissive smirk. Ada swallowed hard. She forced her legs forward and headed toward the student affairs office. Her bag was already growing heavy. Sweat trickled down her neck, but she kept walking, repeating silently, "Ada, VO. I belong here, I belong here, I belong here." After several hours of cues, signatures, and instructions she could barely follow because of nervousness, she finally received her hostel allocation. The hostel. When Ada reached the hostel complex, she stood still, overwhelmed. Students moved in and out of the building like ants. Music blasted from some rooms. Laughter and arguments floated through open doors. She climbed the stairs slowly, counting each step to calm her racing heart. Room 218, she knocked gently. The door swung open, revealing two girls surrounded by clothes, makeup kits, ring lights, and stylish shoes scattered everywhere. Their hair was long and glamorous, their nails bright and perfectly shaped. They looked like they had stepped out of a fashion magazine. Gloria, raising a brow, yes. Who are you looking for? I'm Ada. I was assigned to this room. The girls exchanged a look. Half surprise, half disappointment. Bella, oh, another one. Ada stepped in shyly, trying hard not to stare at how beautiful and confident they looked. Her presence seemed to dull the room's shine. She placed her small bag on the only empty bed, her entire belongings fitting into one corner, unlike the mountain of items her roommates owned. Gloria, so, where are the rest of your things? Ada, forcing a smile. This is all I brought for now. Gloria's eyebrows lifted slightly, but she said nothing. Bella, who had been painting her nails, looked Ada over more closely, particularly her face. Bella, you're a pretty girl. Very pretty, smirks. Fine face without money is dangerous in this school. The comment stung, but Ada pretended not to notice. Later that evening, the two girls prepared to go out, dressed in flashy clothes and smelling like expensive perfume. Ada watched from her bed as they applied makeup. Gloria, we're going out for the night, eyeing Ada. You should come with us sometime. You'll make quick cash with that innocent face. Ada stiffened. Ada, no, thank you. I didn't come here for that. The next morning, Ada woke up to the sound of loud music coming from Gloria's phone. It was barely 6 a.m., but the room was already filled with the sharp scent of makeup products and the chatter of her roommates. Gloria sat in front of a mirror, adjusting her wig and humming to herself. Bella, on the other hand, was lounging on her bed scrolling through her phone with lazy elegance. Ada quietly folded her bedsheet, making herself as small and unnoticed as possible, but Bella's eyes lifted from her screen. Bella, so Ada, what's your plan in this school? How you want to survive? Ada paused. She hadn't even figured that out herself. She was still thinking of how she would eat, just food for that day, then the next day, then the next. School fees felt like a mountain she didn't yet have the energy to climb. I'll look for small jobs. Maybe cleaning. Cooking. Anything honest? Gloria turned from the mirror and laughed, loud, sharp, almost mocking. Gloria, honest? Shakes her head, amused. My dear, honesty doesn't pay for anything in this school. Bella sat up on her bed slowly, her eyes narrowing with curiosity. Bella, look, let me be real with you. You're pretty, very pretty, points at her face. This face is money, big money. Ada felt a sudden shiver run through her. She began to sense where this conversation was going. Ada, softly, I didn't come here for that kind of life. Gloria rolled her eyes dramatically. Gloria, oh, here we go. Miss Holy Daughter, leans forward. Do you think the girls driving cars here bought them with class attendance? Do you think those ones in the fancy hostels get money from reading textbooks? Bella joined in with a sly smile. Bella, men run this place. If you want to survive, you need a man. Someone to sponsor you, someone to help you. Ada sat on her bed, her heart beating faster. Their words felt like poison, slowly creeping into her ears. I just want to focus on my studies. That's all I came for. Gloria walked closer to her and sat on the edge of Ada's bed. Her tone softened slightly. Gloria, we're not saying you should lose yourself. Just benefit from what you have. Touches Ada's cheek lightly. Do you know how many girls would kill for this kind of face? Ada flinched away gently at I can't do that. Gloria sighed in frustration. Gloria, then you will suffer. This school is not kind to poor people. Bella nodded like someone confirming bad news. Bella. Nobody is coming to save you. No money, no food, no books, no clothes. Your parents can't help you. You better think very well. The words landed heavily in Ada's chest. She knew they were not lying about the hardship ahead, but that didn't make their proposition any less painful. Gloria stood up sharply and clapped her hands once. Gloria, well, we have class. Points at Ada's simple outfit. Try and get something better to wear. People will laugh at you. They left the room with the same perfume trail they carried everywhere they went. As soon as the door shut, Ada released the breath she had been holding. She sat on her bed and buried her face in her palms. Her mind raced. What if they were right? What if she couldn't survive without doing what they did? What if her dream was too big for someone like her? But then she remembered her mother's words. Whatever you do, do not lose yourself. That sentence settled her, roots grounding a shaking tree. She stood up, wiped her eyes, and tightened her jaw. Kada, Vio, I didn't come here to sell myself. If suffering is the price for my dream, then I will suffer. But I will not break my mother's trust. I will not betray myself. She picked up her worn notebook and held it to her chest, as though it was her shield against the world. That morning, as she walked to her first class, she didn't just step onto the campus as a new student. She stepped in as a fighter. The first week of lectures introduced Ada to a kind of exhaustion she had never known. Waking up at dawn, walking long distances between faculties, struggling to understand thick accents and fast-paced lectures, everything felt overwhelming. But those challenges were nothing compared to the storm building quietly over her survival. By the second week, Ada's little money had run out. She had been rationing her meals carefully. One small loaf of bread could last 2 days if she cut it thinly enough. Water became her best friend, filling her stomach when hunger gnawed too deeply. She wouldn't ask anyone for help. She wouldn't go home as a failure. She needed work, and fast. One hot afternoon, after lectures, Ada approached the administrative quarters. I can do it. I'm strong, the woman sighed. Woman, well, the pay is very small. You will come early before classes. AM, you will sweep the compound, mop the corridor, wash the toilets. Then you can go for your lectures. Ada nodded eagerly. Ada, I will do it, Ma. Oh, man. Okay. Come tomorrow morning. Ada left the office with trembling hands. She didn't feel shame, only relief. It was a start. She spent the night preparing, washing her only pair of jeans, tightening her worn slippers, and praying she wouldn't oversleep. At exactly 4:30 a.m., Ada woke up before her alarm. The hostel was still dark. Students snored or scrolled their phones under blankets. She walked quietly to the bathroom, washed her face, and headed out carrying a small bucket and a rag. The early morning air was cold. The campus was quiet, except for security guards making their rounds. When she reached the administrative block, the woman from the previous day pointed her to the equipment. Woman, start with the corridor. When you finish, scrub the toilets. Ada nodded and began. Her hands moved quickly, sweep, bend, mop, rinse. By the time she got to the second corridor, sweat was dripping down her neck. By the time she finished the toilets, her knees were shaking. The semester stretched on like a long, uneven road, some days smooth, most days rough. Every part of her body seemed to be fighting a quiet war. Each morning she dragged her cleaning tools across the compound, her arms numb, her back aching, her eyelids heavy. By the time she got to class, her brain felt too foggy to absorb anything. One afternoon, she sat in a lecture hall. Her lecturer, Dr. Ogun, wrote formulas on the board with lightning speed. The formulas made sense yesterday. Today, they looked like scribbles. Her head dipped, her eyes fluttered. Suddenly, Miss Ada, are you with us? The class jolted. Ada lifted her head, embarrassed. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. Behind her, she heard whispers and giggles. She's always sleeping. Why did she even come to school? Maybe Hunger Day worry-am. Ada lowered her eyes and swallowed the humiliation. Her stomach growled at that exact moment. Determined to catch up, Ada rushed to the library after class. She reread the same paragraph 3 times, understanding nothing. Her eyes grew heavier. Eventually, she drifted off. She woke up to a sharp tap on the table. A library attendant was standing over her, frowning. Go back to your hostel. Ada apologized quickly, gathered her books, and left with a burning shame in her chest. Time became Ada's greatest enemy. By the time she returned to the hostel, her roommates would be laughing with friends, eating takeout food, watching movies, or dressing up for outings. Some nights, she managed to study but forgot everything the next morning because her brain was too strained. Assignments began piling up. A lecturer returned her script with a large red question mark on the front. I expected better from you, his words pierced her. Back in the hostel, Gloria and Bella noticed her slipping performance. Gloria smirked. School is not smiling with you, oh. You look like someone carrying the whole world on your head. Bella added, I told you already, beauty is your ticket. But you want to suffer like a martyr. Ada ignored them. Some nights, Bella would toss her long hair and say, "If you keep this up, you'll graduate with nothing but stress marks." One evening, while washing a large pile of laundry for the lecturer's wife, Ada's vision blurred. She sat on a stool, gripping the bucket tightly. Tears filled her eyes without warning. She dropped the cloth she was scrubbing and buried her face in her hands. "Why is this so hard? Why can't I just breathe? God, am I doing something wrong?" She sobbed quietly. That night, back in her bunk bed, she stared at the ceiling for a long time before whispering softly to herself, "I didn't come here to fail. I didn't come this far to give up now." Even though her grades had begun to suffer, even though her body felt like collapsing, Ada refused to surrender. She would push, she would stumble, but she would rise again. Because in her heart, one truth remained unshaken. This dream was worth every sacrifice. Assignments began piling up. Group members complained she wasn't contributing enough. More jobs, less energy. As weeks turned into months, Ada realized that the cleaning job alone wasn't enough. She needed textbooks, handouts, transport fares, food. Everything cost money. One afternoon after class, she approached a lecturer's wife who lived near the campus. "Ada, good afternoon, Ma. Please, do you need help with cooking or washing? I can assist." The woman paused, studying Ada's tired but determined face. Lecturer's wife. I do need someone to help with washing clothes on weekends. Can you handle that? Ada nodded. "Adios, Ma. Anything you need." The job was intense. Piles of clothes, heavy bed sheets, children's uniforms soaked in mud. But Ada did it tirelessly. She scrubbed until her fingers wrinkled, until her back felt like breaking. Another week, she started helping a family nearby with cooking and errands. When she collected her pay, just a few crumpled notes, she smiled gratefully. To her, it was huge. That money bought her Gary and groundnuts for the week. The final year of Ada's university journey felt like a long, breathless climb up a steep mountain. By the time she reached the last semester, she was running on nothing but stubbornness and prayer. Her grades, though not terrible, were nowhere near what she had once dreamed of. She had wanted to graduate top of her class, to hold her certificate with pride, to prove to the world that poverty could not crush destiny. But survival had demanded too much from her, and today, she would face the reality of that sacrifice. The sun rose early that morning, casting warm, golden light across the campus. Birds chirped as if celebrating the hundreds of graduates dressed in their gowns and caps, posing for pictures, laughing, hugging, shouting with joy. Ada stood alone near a corner of the faculty building, adjusting her oversized gown. It wasn't new. It was borrowed from a girl in the next hostel who had graduated the year before. Her gown hung awkwardly on her frame, but Ada didn't care. She stroked the fabric gently, smiling to herself. "I made it somehow. I made it." Her heart swelled with emotions she didn't know how to place. Relief, exhaustion, gratitude, and a little bit of sorrow, too. Around her, classmates stood with their families. Fathers wearing native attire and dark sunglasses. Mothers in colorful lace wrappers and head ties, proudly fanning themselves. Siblings holding flowers and balloons. Cameras flashing everywhere. Ada's throat tightened. Her parents were not here. Her mother had insisted on coming, even though they could barely afford transport to the village market, let alone the long journey to the university. Her father had said, "My daughter, one day we will celebrate properly." But his health had grown weak over the years, and money was simply too scarce. So Ada told them, "Don't worry, Papa. Don't worry, Mama. Just pray for me. That is more than enough." In truth, she didn't want them to see her broken sandals, her faded dress underneath the gown, or the ponytail she tied with old shoelaces because she couldn't afford hair extensions like other girls. She wanted them to see her one day in glory, dressed well, celebrated, successful. Not like this, not in struggle. Graduation was supposed to be the beginning of something new. But Ada soon discovered that life after university was its own kind of battlefield. 2 weeks after graduation, Ada sat typing her CV with shaky fingers. Her qualifications were simple. A second-class lower degree, work experience in cleaning and menial tasks, and a long list of church leadership roles. Will this be enough? Will anyone even look at this? The first interview was at a medium-sized real estate firm. The manager skimmed her CV. Second class lower. You know most companies prefer higher grades? I understand, sir. But I'm hardworking, dedicated, and willing to learn. He leaned back, his eyes scanning not her CV, but her. Promotions in this company are based on performance. But there are other ways to ensure faster progress. He leaned forward. You're a beautiful girl. Don't waste that beauty. Come see me after closing hours, and we can discuss your future here. Ada stood up immediately. Thank you for your time, sir. I'll take my leave. Outside, her hands were shaking. The next week brought more interviews. The second job? A manager who asked if she was open-minded enough to keep him company. The third? A boss who didn't even bother hiding his intentions. The fourth job told her bluntly, without connections, this company won't consider you. Sorry.
But it was the seventh job that broke something inside her. The seventh employer. This company was well-known and reputable. Ada prayed hard before going. She felt hopeful, almost excited. The interview went well at first. The HR supervisor seemed impressed by how she balanced school and work. They spoke about training programs, progression opportunities. Then, as she stood to leave, he said, "Supervisor, you have potential, Ada. But if you want to go far here, you need someone to guide you, closely." He stepped closer, too close. "Supervisor, a private dinner this weekend. Just the two of us. It will secure your place here." Ada's throat tightened. She stepped back and whispered, "I'm not interested, sir." He shrugged casually, as if rejecting him was the most foolish thing anyone could do. "Supervisor, then I can't help you." She walked out of the office, then out of the building, then onto the street, and then the tears came. Hot, humiliated, bitter tears. She walked until her legs felt weak and her vision blurred. What did I do wrong? Why is the world like this? Why is it so hard just to be seen for my work? 15 jobs, 15 disappointments. Weeks became months. In all, Ada attended 15 interviews, 15 chances, 15 hopes, 15 disappointments. Every job that wanted her qualifications also wanted her body. Every employer who praised her intelligence hinted at sexual favors. Some were subtle, some were bold. Some were shameless, but every time Ada said the same word, no. Even when hunger clawed at her stomach. Even when her rent was overdue. Even when she could barely afford bus fares to the interviews. Her dignity stayed intact. It was the only valuable thing she felt she still owned. The final straw. One morning, Ada sat on a bench outside a corporate building, her CV on her lap and rejection emails in her inbox. She felt empty, like a shell of the girl who once believed education would solve her problems. The world felt bigger than her, colder than ever. Then her roommate Gloria's voice echoed in her memory. Gloria. Flashback. Honesty doesn't pay for anything. You will suffer. For the first time, Ada wondered if Gloria had been right. But just as quickly, she heard her mother's voice too. Mama Nadi. Flashback. Whatever you do, do not lose yourself. Ada closed her eyes and inhaled deeply. She was tired. She was frustrated. She was nearing her breaking point. But she had not been brought this far to fall into darkness. When she opened her eyes again, a new thought came to her. Ada, VO. If companies won't accept me, if bosses want to use me, then maybe I need to build something of my own. It was a terrifying thought. But it was also the spark of a new idea. One that would change her life forever.
By the time Ada acknowledged that the traditional job world wasn't made for girls like her, girls without connections, without a wealthy surname, without a sponsor, she was emotionally drained. One evening, she sat in the hostel corridor long after everyone else had gone inside. The breeze was cold, carrying faint music from distant hostels. She hugged her knees, staring blankly at the cracked cement floor. She had tried her best. She had given her all. Yet every door remained shut. She whispered into the night, Adia. What do I do now? Silence answered her. Then, from deep within her, a whisper rose, soft, stubborn, refusing to die. Start something. At first, she ignored the thought. She was too tired, too discouraged, too broke, but the idea refused to leave. The seed of an idea. A week later, Ada visited the public library. She sat in the real estate section, mostly by accident. She had come to escape the noise of the hostel, but instead found herself flipping through books with titles like
Introduction to Property Management, Real Estate as a Wealth Builder, Urban Planning and Housing Development. As she flipped through pages, her heartbeat increased. Something clicked. Something made sense. She had studied urban and regional planning. She understood land use, housing development, settlement patterns, and property laws. Maybe her degree wasn't useless after all. For the first time in months, she felt a spark. Hope, curiosity, purpose. She whispered, "Ada Real Estate, I can do this." She didn't know how. She had no money, no customers, no office. But she had an idea. And ideas, she believed, were seeds. The fear. One night, Ada sat at the edge of her bed staring at her small savings notebook. The pages were almost empty. Even with all her cleaning and cooking jobs, she barely had enough for food. Everything in her screamed, "You cannot start a business. You don't have the money. You don't know anyone." But another voice answered, "You survived university. You can survive this too."
She closed her eyes tightly. What if she failed? What if she fell into debt? What if people laughed at her for dreaming too big? But then she remembered all the humiliation she faced in her job hunt, men trying to buy her dignity with job offers. She clenched her fists and whispered, "I will never beg a man for my future again. If doors won't open for me, I'll build my own." The next Monday morning, Ada walked into a small microfinance bank near the market. Her dress was neatly washed but worn. Her shoes were slightly torn at the edges, but she kept them polished. She approached the loan officer, a short man with a round face and suspicious eyes. "Yes, what can we do for you?" Ada swallowed her fear. "Sir, I want to apply for a small business loan." His eyebrows lifted. "Do you have collateral?" "No, sir." "Guarantors?" "No, sir, but I have a plan. A strong plan." He gave her a long look, probably thinking she was wasting his time. But something in Ada's eyes, determination mixed with desperation, made him sigh. "Sit down, let me see what you have." Ada handed her proposal, a handwritten document with calculations, market surveys from estate agents she had interviewed, and a step-by-step plan for running a small real estate consultancy. He scanned it slowly, his expression changed slightly. Not impressed, just less doubtful. "You wrote this?" "Yes, sir." He adjusted his glasses. We don't normally give loans to beginners without collateral. But I like your courage. And your plan is surprisingly thorough." Ada's heart thumped. "We will give you a microloan, but be careful. If you fail, you will owe us." Ada nodded, tears gathering in her eyes. "Thank you, sir. I won't fail." 2 weeks later, Ada received the loan. It wasn't much, but to her it felt like $1 million. She stood outside the bank holding the envelope, staring at it with shaking hands. She whispered a prayer, "God, guide me. Let this be the beginning of something good." She immediately drafted a budget. Rent a tiny office space, print business cards, register the business name, buy a secondhand laptop, basic furniture, transport money for property inspections. She named her business Ada Realty Integrity. Trust. Commitment. She printed the name on cheap flyers and walked across neighborhoods handing them out. The office she rented was barely the size of a small bathroom. Its walls were cracked, the ceiling had water stains. The window was stiff and barely opened. But to Ada, it was perfect. It was hers. She bought a small plastic table, 2 chairs, and placed her secondhand laptop on top. She arranged the flyers neatly. She hung a small cardboard sign on the door. "Ada Realty, we help you find home." When she stepped back to look at the setup, her eyes filled with tears. Not of sadness this time, but of pride. From nothing to something, I will make this grow. Even if I have to crawl. For the first 3 weeks, no one walked into the office. Ada sat at her desk every day from morning till evening, dressed well, smiling, ready to help. But the door never opened. Some days, she cried quietly. Some days, she doubted herself. Some days, she almost gave up. But every morning, she still put on her gown, walked to her office, and said, "One day, someone will walk through that door." One afternoon, an elderly woman selling fruits outside approached her. "My daughter, what do you do here?" Ada explained politely. The woman nodded thoughtfully.
Ada's business was finally taking shape. Not perfect, not grand, but alive. She woke early every morning with new energy, eager to open her tiny office, eager to meet new clients, eager to build something she could proudly call her own. She felt hope again, real hope, the kind that warms your chest and makes you believe in tomorrow. But life has a strange way of striking just when a person begins to breathe freely. It was a quiet Thursday afternoon. The sun was kind, the breeze gentle. Ada was arranging property files on her desk when her phone buzzed. The caller ID read, Mama Naughty. She smiled. Mama, good afternoon. But her mother's voice didn't answer. Instead, she heard her mother crying, loud, painful, uncontrollable wailing. Ada's heart stopped. Mama? Mama, talk to me. What happened? Then another voice came on, her uncle's trembling. Ada. Ada, my daughter, you need to hurry home. Ada froze. The world around her dimmed. Uncle, what happened? What's going on? There was silence, a painful silence. Then, your father has passed. The phone slipped from Ada's hand and hit the floor. Her world shattered instantly. Ada felt her knees weaken. She sank to the floor, shaking violently, her breath escaping her in fast, broken gasps. No, 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 no! Her chest tightened painfully. She clawed at the air, trying to breathe. Her father, her quiet protector, her encourager, her gentle supporter, was gone. Just like that? She picked up the phone with trembling hands. Uncle, and tell me it's not true. Please tell me, please. But the only response was her uncle's sobbing. Ada pressed her forehead to the cold floor and wept like a child. The kind of grief that rips through the soul. She packed a small bag and left immediately, not caring about the office, not caring about money, not even caring how she would pay for the journey. The bus ride home felt endless. Every bump in the road echoed the ache in her heart. As the bus pulled into her village, she saw people gathered outside her family house. The air felt heavy. There was a low hum of sorrow, whispered prayers, muffled sobs. When she stepped down, everyone turned to look at her with pity. She walked slowly toward the house, each step heavier than the last. Her mother ran out, crying so hard she could barely stand, collapsed into each other's arms, holding on as if drowning. Ada's mother's tears soaked her shoulder. Your father, he collapsed. He was calling your name. He wanted to see you. Ada cried louder, her heart tearing open. Inside the small room where her father lay, Ada hesitated at the doorway. He looked peaceful, as if sleeping, but the air around him felt empty. Wrong. Ada knelt beside him, touching his cold hand. Papa, please wake up. I'm here now. Papa, please. Her voice broke into sobs. I'm doing everything you taught me. I'm trying. Please don't leave me yet. But silence answered her. She bowed her head beside his body and cried until her eyes burned. For the next 2 days, Ada barely slept. Guests came and went, condolences poured in. But condolences didn't pay for a burial. Her mother whispered one night, voice trembling, Ada, we don't have enough for the burial. The little money she had saved for business expenses, her small laptop, her office chair, her clothes. She would have to sell them all. In the following days, Ada walked from house to house, from shop to shop, selling anything she could. Even her phone, she exchanged it for a cheaper one. People bargained with her mercilessly, knowing she was desperate. Some gave her less than half the value. Some took advantage of her tears. But she swallowed her pride, because burying her father with dignity mattered more than anything else in the world. On the 3rd week, her father was laid to rest. The funeral was simple but respectful. Ada stood beside the grave, staring at the fresh soil that now covered her father's body. She felt hollow. Her lips trembled as she whispered, Papa, I promise, I will make you proud. Even if life takes everything from me, I will keep standing. As the final handful of sand dropped on the coffin, something inside her closed. A chapter of innocence, a chapter of safety, a chapter of childhood. Her father was gone, but his love, his sacrifices, his prayers, they lived inside her. And now, more than ever, she needed them. Because fate was not done testing her strength, not even close. The weeks that followed her father's burial felt unreal, like Ada was walking through life wrapped in a thick fog. She moved, she breathed, she spoke when necessary, but she felt nothing. Not hunger, not joy, not fear, just emptiness. Her father had been the one steady thing in a world that kept shifting beneath her feet. Losing him felt like losing her compass, her anchor, and her sense of direction all at once. Returning to the city, after 2 weeks at home, Ada returned to the city. Her office was almost empty now. Her laptop, gone, her printer sold. Her office chairs, taken by a neighbor who promised to pay the remaining balance later. The tiny sign outside her door faded from sun and rain. She walked into the room and quietly sat on the dusty floor. It didn't feel like a business anymore. It felt like a tomb of lost dreams. She pressed her forehead to her knees and let out a long, trembling breath. Ada, Papa. How do I start again? No answer, only silence. The weight of grief. Some mornings Ada couldn't get out of bed. She would lay there staring at the ceiling, her chest heavy, her body stiff. Her tears came suddenly, while making tea, while walking down the street, while sitting in the bus. People stared sometimes, but she didn't care. Grief made the world blurry. Her mother called her every evening. Mama Nadi, Ada my child, how are you holding up? Ada always lie today. I'm fine, Mama, I'm trying. But she wasn't fine, she was sinking. The little strength she had left. Yet, somehow through the fog of sorrow, she continued working. She used her old contacts to find potential clients. She borrowed her neighbor's laptop to type property documents. She wrote property descriptions in a small notebook when she couldn't access a computer. She walked long distances to avoid transport costs. It was hard, harder than anything she had ever done. But she kept moving because her father would have wanted her to. Sometimes she heard his voice in her head, Papa Nadi, memory. Ada, remember, slow progress is still progress, don't stop. She wiped her tears and kept going. The first accident. One hot afternoon, Ada boarded a Kiki tricycle after meeting a client. She was thinking about her father, lost in her own thoughts, when a speeding bus ran through a red light. The Kiki flipped, voices screamed. Glass shattered, metal screeched against the road. Ada felt her body tossed like a rag doll. When the Kiki stopped rolling, she lay still, waiting for the pain, waiting for the blood, waiting for any sign she was alive. Oh, woman, check her pulse, check her pulse! People stared at her like she was a miracle. She felt like she had walked out of death. The second, third, and fourth accidents. 2 weeks later, on her way to a property site, a motorcycle rider lost control and swerved straight into her. They crashed into a ditch. Ada got up again, shaken, dusty, but unhurt. The riders stared at her in disbelief. Rider, madam, are you made of iron? A month later, a taxi she boarded was rear-ended by a drunk driver. No one was hurt, except Ada's fear, which grew with every crash. The fourth accident happened at night, a hit-and-run that knocked her off her feet as she crossed the road. The car disappeared into the darkness. A shop owner ran toward her. Shop owner, Auntie, did the car hit you? Ada looked at her legs, expecting them to be broken. But she stood up, no bones broken. The fifth accident, the most frightening one. It happened on a rainy evening when Ada was returning home. The road was slippery. The streetlights glowed faintly through the mist. She was holding her umbrella tightly when she saw headlights approaching, too fast. Before she could react, the car skidded and hit the sidewalk, inches from crushing her. The driver jumped out. Driver, my God! Are you okay? I thought I killed you. Ada stared at the car's bumper, dented and steaming, just inches from her legs. Her voice trembled. Ada, I'm okay. But inside she wasn't. A cold shiver ran through her. Was she cursed? Was something after her? Why did death keep coming so close but never touching her? The sixth and seventh. In the fifth month, a truck clipped the bus she was inside. The bus spun, passengers screamed, yet Ada climbed out with only dust on her clothes. The seventh accident was the worst. She was walking to church early in the morning when a trailer tire burst and flew directly at her. People screamed, someone shouted, "Man, Jesus! It will kill her!" Ada closed her eyes, but the tire bounced on the ground, hit the wall behind her, and rolled away harmlessly. She fell to her knees, shaking violently. A woman rushed to her and held her tightly. "Woman, my daughter!" "Whatever is following you, God is fighting for you." Ada burst into tears. She didn't feel protected. She felt terrified. 1 year of loss. As month 6 drew to an end, Ada tried to gather the scattered pieces of her life. But grief followed her like a shadow. Her father's death still sat heavy in her heart. Her finances were a mess. Her business was struggling to survive. She lived in constant fear of the next accident. And then, exactly 1 year after her father's passing, life struck again. On a quiet morning, as Ada prepared to open her small office, her phone rang. Another call, another shaky voice, another tragedy. She lost another member of her family, another piece of her heart, and all she could do was whisper, "Ada, why, God? Why me? Why again?" Her tears fell onto her hands and she felt the familiar ache in her chest. She didn't know how much more she could take. But something inside her, something her father planted, kept her standing. Because even in the darkest storms, Ada refused to fall. Ada always believed that surviving was a blessing, a sign of God's protection, a miracle deserving of gratitude. But now, survival felt like a burden she didn't ask for. The grief of losing a second family member in just 1 year reopened wounds that had barely begun to close. For the first time in her life, Ada wondered if being alive was a punishment. In the days after the second loss, Ada struggled to get out of bed. She slept too much. She ate almost nothing. She barely spoke. Her nights were worse. She woke up trembling, sometimes crying, sometimes gasping for air as nightmares dragged her from sleep. In every dream, she saw either her father reaching out to her or headlights speeding toward her. One morning, her mother called her. Ada let the phone ring until it stopped. Then guilt washed over her. She dialed back. "Ada, my daughter, how are you holding up?" Ada's voice cracked. She didn't lie this time. "Mama, I don't know. I feel like I'm falling apart." Her mother sighed deeply. "I wish I could hold you. But listen, Ada. You are stronger than everything trying to break you." The next few days were quiet. Ada avoided people, avoided work, avoided conversations. The 7th accident replayed in her mind over and over. The flying trailer tire, the screams, the impossibility of her survival. She whispered to herself in the dark, "Why am I still here? Why do I keep escaping?" The question scared her. One Sunday, after nearly 2 weeks of isolation, Ada forced herself to go to church. The church was filled with people singing joyfully. Ada slipped into the back row. As the choir sang, she felt the weight in her chest tighten. The words echoed through her. "Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come." Ada's breath hitched. Tears slipped down her cheeks. A woman sitting beside her gently touched her arm. "Are you okay, my dear?" Ada nodded, but her voice betrayed her. "No, I'm not." The woman squeezed her hand. "Talk to God. He hears even the words we don't know how to say." Ada bowed her head. She didn't pray for strength or success or miracles. She prayed one simple prayer. "God, please don't leave me alone." After the service, she met with the church counselor, an elderly man with soft eyes. He listened quietly as she spoke, about the accidents, about the deaths, about the fear she carried. When she finished, he spoke. "Ada, you are not cursed. You are passing through fire, but it has not consumed you. Why does it hurt so much then?" He sighed gently. "Because you love deeply. And because you are still standing. Many people don't survive one serious accident. You survived 7. Maybe instead of asking why, ask what. What are you meant to do with the life you still have?" His words stayed with her. Ada didn't recover overnight. But she began taking small steps. She opened her curtains, she cleaned her room. She even returned to her tiny office, dusty, empty, but hers. She wiped the desk, swept the floor, and opened the window to let in light. As she stood in the doorway, she whispered, "I'm not ready, but I will try." For the first time in months, Ada felt a small shift inside her. Not happiness, but peace. A quiet, steady calm. She no longer felt like she was drowning. She felt like she was floating. And as she stood inside her tiny office that evening, watching the sun set through the cracked window, she realized she was still alive. And maybe, just maybe, there was a reason for that. She sat at her desk and wrote in her notebook, "I will live. I will rise. I will rebuild." She closed the notebook and whispered, "Papa, I'm still here. And I will make it, no matter what tries to stop me." For the first time in a long while, she believed her own words. One Sunday, after nearly 2 weeks of isolation, Ada forced herself to go to church. The church was filled with people singing joyfully. Ada slipped into the back row, avoiding attention. As the choir sang, the words echoed through her, "Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come." Ada's breath hitched. Tears slipped down her cheeks. A woman sitting beside her gently touched her arm. "Are you okay, my dear?" Ada's voice betrayed her. "No, I'm not." The woman squeezed her hand. "Talk to God." Ada bowed her head. She prayed one simple prayer. "God, please don't leave me alone." After the service, she met with the church counselor. He listened quietly as she spoke. When she finished, he said, "Ada, you are not cursed. You are passing through fire, but it has not consumed you. Why does it hurt so much then?" "Because you loved deeply," he sighed gently. "And because you are still standing. You survived 7 accidents. Maybe instead of asking why, ask what. What are you meant to do with the life you still have?" His words stayed with her. Ada began taking small steps. She opened her curtains. She cleaned her room. She returned to her tiny office. As she stood in the doorway of her struggling business, she whispered, "I'm not ready, but I will try." For the first time in months, Ada felt a small shift inside her. Not happiness, but peace. A quiet, steady calm. She no longer felt like she was drowning. She felt like she was floating. And as she stood inside her tiny office that evening, she realized she was still alive. And maybe there was a reason for that. She sat at her desk and wrote in her notebook, "I will live. I will rise. I will rebuild." She closed the notebook, exhaled deeply, and whispered, "Papa, I'm still here. And I will make it, no matter what tries to stop me." For the first time in a long while, she believed her own words. The next morning, Ada woke up with a feeling she hadn't felt in a long time. Clarity. Not happiness, not excitement, but a quiet, firm certainty. She was still alive. She was still standing. And that meant her story was not over. She stood in front of her tiny mirror and stared at herself. Her eyes carried months of exhaustion. Her cheeks were thinner. Her face was tired. But there was strength there, too, a strength carved through pain. She whispered her father's words. Slow progress is still progress. Ada returned to her office with a soft determination guiding her steps. The room looked small and empty, but this time she didn't see failure. She saw a foundation. She dusted her single plastic chair, wiped the cracked table, and arranged her few remaining files. The office wasn't much, but it was hers. She left the door open as a symbolic gesture. "I'm ready for whatever comes next." Around noon, a middle-aged man wearing a shirt and tie walked past her door, then stopped. "Excuse me, is this a real estate office?" Ada stood up so quickly her chair wobbled. "Yes, sir, yes it is." "Please come in." He stepped inside, glancing around. "I just moved to this area for work. I need a small apartment. Someone told me agents around here can be questionable. But you look honest, can you help?" Ada's breath caught. Her first client in months. Her first sign of life. "Yes, sir, I can help you." Her voice trembled slightly, not from fear, but from gratitude. That one client led to another, and then another. Slowly, like rain falling gently on dry soil, business returned. Not a flood, not a breakthrough, but steady droplets of mercy. And Ada took each one with humility. The pain of losing her father and another relative still lived inside her, but she no longer tried to run from it. She learned to breathe through it. Healing, she realized, was not a straight line. But she kept moving, and slowly the numbness began to soften. 1 month later, Ada traveled home. She brought flowers, simple white ones, and walked slowly to her father's grave. The air was calm, the sky was gray but peaceful. She sat beside the grave and began to talk. "Papa, it has been the hardest year of my life, but I'm still here, and I'm not giving up." A breeze brushed past her cheek, soft, familiar, almost warm. "I hope you're proud of me. I hope you can see me. I hope you know I'm trying." She stayed there for a long while, allowing her heart to release what it had been carrying. When she stood to leave, she felt lighter. Not healed, not whole, but lighter, strangely, beautifully, unexpectedly. The accident stopped. No more near misses, no more close calls, no more strange encounters with speeding cars or faulty vehicles. For the first time in a long time, the world felt still, safe, almost gentle. Ada didn't know if it was God, destiny, or sheer coincidence, but she was grateful. Over the next few weeks, Ada noticed something changing inside her. She spoke with more confidence. She walked with her head held higher. She negotiated with clients firmly and respectfully. She made smart financial decisions. She no longer ignored her intuition. She no longer lowered her worth to please people. She no longer feared starting over. Pain had shaped her, but it had not ruined her. She was becoming someone new, someone stronger, someone wiser. Her father would have recognized this version of her. He would have smiled proudly. One evening, Ada sat in her office reviewing documents. Her small desk lamp cast a warm glow across the room. Outside, the street was quiet, children laughing faintly in the distance. She paused and looked around. This office, these clients, this fragile but growing business. It wasn't everything she dreamed of, but it was hers, and it was enough for now. She closed her file, leaned back in her chair, and whispered, "I'm still here. And I'm ready for what comes next."